Hi everyone, my name is Pardis Emami-Naeini. I'm an assistant professor of computer science at Duke University. Today, I will be presenting our work on understanding people's concerns and attitudes towards smart cities. This is a joint work with my colleagues at University of Washington, TikTok, and Microsoft Research. Cities are becoming very popular among people. According to the United Nations, for the first time in the history, more than half of the world's population are currently living in the cities, and this number is projected to increase to 68% by 2050. The concept of smart city was introduced to satisfy the increasing needs of urbanization, including safety, air quality, and resource allocation. However, despite being commonly advertised, there's no universal definition of what a smart city means. Some common examples of smart city technologies are surveillance cameras, as well as gunshot detectors to monitor crime and improve safety. Another example is air quality sensor. To function, these technologies rely on collecting vast amount of data from people and cities, which has made privacy scholars and city residents very concerned. In some cases, people's privacy and ethical concerns have even led to such projects being completely shut down. From prior research, we already know that people are concerned about smart city technologies, but what is missing here is what exactly people are concerned about regarding these data collections. Such knowledge is especially useful for city stakeholders, including device manufacturers and city planners, to prioritize and direct resources into areas that city residents are most concerned about. To this end, we conducted a mixed method study that included a series of interviews and a follow-up survey study. We conducted semi-structured interviews with participants living in underserved neighborhoods of Seattle. Interviews took on average 1 hour, and we compensated each participant with a $25 gift card. It is important to note that the neighborhoods that we recruited from all were using several common smart city technologies, including surveillance cameras and gunshot detectors. These interviews enabled us to capture in-depth qualitative data on people's concerns and knowledge of smart cities. To be able to quantify how different factors influence people's concerns and attitudes towards smart cities, we complemented the interview study with a large-scale survey study on the prolific crowdsourcing platform with 348 US participants. The survey took on average 14 minutes to be completed, and we compensated each participant with $5 US. To measure smart city concerns and attitudes, we used a vignette methodology and presented participants with several randomly assigned smart city scenarios. Among the vignettes, we varied 3 factors that have been shown to influence people's concerns related to data collections. These factors were type of collected data, who can access the collected data, and for how long the data are retained. For each factor, we selected levels that we hypothesized to represent a wide range of concerns. We tested 4 levels of data type: real-time video footage, the presence of gunshots, the number of people, and the air quality data. We considered 4 levels of data access, both public and restricted. We included open access, law enforcement officers, the mayor's office, and the insurance companies. We also considered 2 levels for data retention type: short retention of 1 day and a long retention of data never getting deleted. We presented the combination of these factors and their levels to our participants. This is an example of a scenario that we presented to participants. The words highlighted in orange are the factors that we varied among scenarios. Imagine you're walking in the street where your home is located and you see a street lamp. There are sensors on this street lamp which can only collect real-time video footage of people in the proximity of the street lamp. Everybody can access this collected information. The collected information will never get deleted. At the end of each scenario, we ask participants several questions to understand their level of concern about the scenario, their assessment of potential benefits and harms of the scenario, and how often they would like to be notified about that data collection scenario. We then conducted qualitative and quantitative analysis to surface insights from the interview and survey data. For qualitative analysis, we use a structured coding and thematic analysis. We investigated participants' perceptions of smart city technologies by constructing cumulative link mix models. In each statistical model, we included several independent variables, including scenario factors, as well as demographic factors. I will now go over only a few of our findings. For some of these findings, I will also mention what that surface insight means for city stakeholders in terms of call for action. Among interview and survey participants, we identified two overarching types of concerns, namely privacy concerns and ethical concerns. Among the tested levels of data type, our participants were significantly more concerned about the data on people being collected compared to the collection of environmental data. One of our participants reported being concerned about the smart streetlights collecting the number of people in its proximity. They said, collecting number of people is absolutely privacy invasive because even if it seems anonymous, knowing how many people are in a specific area is just a step away from more individual tracking. And I do not want that in my neighborhood. Although participants found only a subset of data types concerning regarding privacy, they were concerned about all the presented smart city scenarios, mainly due to their potential to be used to discriminate against marginalized communities. A participant discussed their concerns toward the deployment of gunshot detectors and said, I'm actually concerned with gunshot collection. Well, we should ask, where is this technology actually located? Is it located in an over-policed area that is mostly occupied by people of color? I think this would lead to more violence against already underprivileged demographics. It is important for city policymakers who are in charge of deciding the locations of sensors to listen to communities' concerns and take those concerns into consideration to ensure that the sensor distribution policy will not cause harm to marginalized communities and exacerbate the already concerning and rising discrimination. Last but not least, interview and survey participants expressed interest in being informed and empowered about citywide IoT technologies. They specifically wanted to have information about data practices and the controls that are available to them related to their data, such as having the ability to opt in or opt out of data collection and data sharing. One of our participants said, I would want signs. I would want auditory warnings. I would want street lamps labeled with their privacy information. I want as much as possible done so that I can at least have somewhat of a semblance that I'm choosing, not choosing to be recorded. City policymakers can design transparency tools, such as privacy assistance, to address such strong desire to have transparency and autonomy over smart city data collection and use scenarios. While we're still at the very early trial and mostly early stages of smart city deployments, we as researchers, developers, and policymakers should take responsible and proactive actions to design privacy-preserving and equitable city technologies. This mission cannot get started without having an in-depth knowledge of the needs, understanding, and concerns of city residents towards smart city data collection and use scenarios. Through conducting a two-stage interview and survey data, we identified two major types of concerns, namely privacy and ethics. In addition, we provided several actionable recommendations for city stakeholders to consider when approaching smart city projects, including providing equitable transparency and autonomy over the citywide IoT data collection and use scenarios. With that, I would like to conclude my talk. And if you're interested in knowing more about our other human-centric research projects, please visit our Duke Inspire Lab website at inspire.cs.duke.edu Thank you very much for your attention.